Start right at the beginning of Daf Mem, the first line, Omar Rav. Omar Rav, Rav said the following halacha. It begins with a person that made a bracha of hamaitzi, and after he makes the bracha of hamaitzi, he makes an interruption. You have to make that bracha hamaitzi over again. So the Gemara starts, Omar Rav, toil broich. If after he cut himself a piece of bread, he should have immediately made the bracha, eaten it, and then cut for others around the table. But instead, he cut additional slices of challah, and he gives it to other people, or he tells other people, take and make a bracha. Ein tzarich levarich. He doesn't have to make a bracha over again. This is not considered to be a break between the bracha and the eating of the challah or the bread, because it's for the purpose of eating. He's making the bracha for everybody, and he's giving the food to them, and what he says is connected to the food that is being eaten. Or hava melech, hava lifton. If he made a break and he said, bring salt or bring lifton, bring relish that will be eaten together with the bread, tzarich levarich. In such a case, the first opinion here is he would have to make a bracha over again, because that's not the eating of the bread itself, that's already salt and other things. Rav Yechanan disagrees and says, Afila heviu melech haviu lifton nami ein tzarich levarich. Even if he said that you bring salt or bring lifton, relish, to eat together with the bread, it's also not an interruption, because it's also negeya to the bracha. And the reason is because when you make a bracha, you're supposed to bring the, as the Gemara will soon say, you're supposed to bring it actually before, that it should be a covet for the bracha. To make a bracha, and to not only in the bread, but the bread is being eaten together with the melach and the truffle, lifton that is. But the point of it here is that he's not asking for salt on the table. He's asking the salt for the bread. The lifton is all for the bread. So therefore it's part of the eating. So he doesn't have to make the bracha again. To pass what? Baba Ganush, that's the lifton? Yes, that's lifton, correct. Gavulaturi. If a person says after he made the bracha before he ate, go and take the bran and knead it for the behemoth to eat, so he's not talking anymore about the food that he's going to eat. He's saying prepare the food for the animals to eat. Tzarich levarich. So that's not connected to the food that he's going to eat, and you made a break, you have to make a bracha over again. But Rav Sheshes disagrees and says, Afilu gavulaturi, even if you're saying prepare the food for the ox to eat, nami ein tzarich levarich. You don't have to make a bracha over again. Why not? Because that's something that's necessary for you to do before you eat. So it's enabling you to eat. You may not eat yourself before you prepare the foods for your animals. What does the pasuk say? Livem techa. First it says, I'll provide the grass for your behemoths. And only afterwards does it say, you'll eat and be satisfied. And this is the final psak halacha Shulchan Aruch. It's brought in Shulchan Aruch like the opinion of Rav Sheshes. That would be, of course, l'chatchila, you're not supposed to make any break whatsoever. You make the bracha and eat immediately, and then you make a break. But if a person made a break with anything that's connected to the food that he's eating, or even to prepare the food for a pet, it's not considered to be a break. A person should not make the bracha and break bread. You should first bring the salt and the relish to the table, and not only in front of yourself, but for everybody. And as I said before, this is part of the covet of the bracha. As we saw in the previous daf yesterday, that there's an idea to make a bracha on a shleima. If you're benching the Eibusher for providing you food, you want to make the bracha on the best. That's kovedik for the bracha. So too, you eat the bread. You can eat a dry, plain piece of bread, or you can eat the bread together with salt or something else, and that's an additional kovet for the bracha. Rav Bashmuel ikla lebei Reish Galusa. Rav Bashmuel was at the Reish Galusa, at the one that was the leader of the Yidden in Galus and Bavel. Afikule rifta, they brought out bread for him. Ubatza lahedya, and he immediately went and washed and made a bracha before they brought any salt to the table or anything else to eat with the bread. Amrulei. Did you retract the statement that you yourself said that do not make the bracha on the bread until you have salt or something else to eat together with the bread on the table? He answered, no, less than tzarich b'shash. This bread does not need any waiting, and Rashi explains because the bread that was brought then was a very geshmake bread made out of good flour, that he wasn't going to eat it together with any other appetizers or whatever it is, so therefore he made the bracha immediately because it was good bread. Now, since the Gemara brought a quote from this Amida, it's going to bring a few quotes from the same person, even though it's totally unrelated subjects. So Rav Bashmul said in the name of Rab Chia, Ein meira glayim kolim ela b'yeshiva. So we're talking over here about a person that is urinating, and this is in a time when there was no proper facilities. So the Gemara it tells you that in order for a person to empty his bladder fully, it's only when he's sitting, not when he's standing. And the reason is because if a person is urinating on the ground and he's afraid that the nitzitzis, that it splashes over him, so he doesn't complete what he has to do properly. Unless the person is sitting and then it doesn't splash over him and then he could urinate properly. Rav Kahana says, if it is soft ground, then it gets absorbed in the ground, so then it doesn't splash. Even if he's standing, it's okay. If it's in a place where there is no soft ground and he cannot sit anywhere, he should stand in a place which is in a higher place, and he urinates in a place that goes down slanted and it doesn't splash on him.
Urinal.
Something like that. The same person said a different idea. After a person eats achol melach, you should eat salt. And when you finish drinking, you should drink water. And then you won't be harmed by the food that you eat. It's giving you good advice. Eat salt as part of your meal. When you finish eating something salty, water, that's very healthy. Tanya Namiyachi, we learned the same thing in Abraisa. After you eat salt. Drink water. And you won't be harmed. Tanya Yidach, we learned in another Braisa. You eat food and there's no salt. Shasa kol mashkin, you drink, but you didn't drink water. By Yaim, if this is during the day, Yidak mirech hapeh, you should be concerned for bad breath. Uvalayla, if this is at nighttime, Yidak mipnei askara, you should be concerned about askara, which is some kind of an inflammation in the throat that it could cause. One that floats the food that he eats in water, which means that you drink a lot of water when you finish eating and the food is floating in water in your stomach. You won't have an issue with intestinal issues in your stomach. How much water should you drink? One flask of water for a loaf of bread. It's not exactly very specific what that is, but I guess in his times it was clear which flask he was talking about and what type of bread, what size loaf of bread he was talking about. A person that's accustomed to eat lentils once in 30 days, so it prevents this aschara, this inflammation in the throat, from in his house. But if you eat lentils every day, all the time, that's not good. It causes bad breath. Someone that eats mustard once in 30 days. It prevents sicknesses, illnesses from his house. Again, eating it too often every day, it's not good for you. It weakens your heart. It's not good for the heart. Someone that eats small fish. Not sure what this is. I mean, this is maybe the herring or anything else. Sardines or herring, okay. It doesn't bring, a person will not have any issues with his stomach. Not only that, it causes a person to multiply, to be able to have children. And it brings health to the whole body of the person. A person that's accustomed to eating ketzach. Rashi brings two pirushim. Either ketzach is, Rashi brings the French, but it's fennel. Or ketzach is some kind of a thing that Rashi says comes from yishmal, whatever, some kind of a seed. I don't know what it is. He won't have issues hurting his heart. Any heart pains. Meisvei, the Gemara asks on this. We learned in a Braisa, Rav Shimon Gamliel ketzach, if you eat this ketzach, it's echad mishishim samamani amavis. It's a 60th of a samamavis, of a poisonous thing. It's not good for the person. And not only that, v'hayashan lemizrach garnoi, a person that has a storehouse of this fennel, if it's fennel, and he sleeps at the east of it, and then there's a wind that comes out of the west, and it blows, and Rashi says, we're talking here about a moist and heavy wind that blows at the person when he's sleeping, and it brings the aroma of this fennel in his storehouse to the person while he's sleeping, dami b'roishai. If it harms him, it's going to be your fault. You shouldn't be sleeping in such a place because it's not good for the person. It's dangerous. So what's the story with this ketzach? Is it healthy or the opposite? So the Gemara answers loy kashya. It's not a question. The aroma, the smell of it is not healthy, but the taste of it, that's something which is very healthy for the person. Takes away heart pains. So the Gemara brings the story for this. Imei, the Rabbi Yirmiyah, the mother of Rabbi Yirmiyah, afilei rifta, she would bake bread, umadbekalei, she would put the fennel on it. She would put it as a paste on it, but then but she would then peel it off in order that he shouldn't smell it. She would put on it, but she taste it, but took it off afterwards that he shouldn't smell it because the smell is an issue. Go back to the Mishnah.
All, today also.
Lav dafka. I'm not sure about that. It's just, I mean, some of these things the Rambam actually brings in Hilchos Deis, and in Hilchos Deis the Rambam brings many more things regarding the health of a person. Many of it does apply today. Some of it possibly not. I mean, it's a good question. I don't know. Rabbi Yehuda, the bracha that we make when we eat the herbs that grow from the ground, when you actually eat the leaves itself, like when you eat lettuce and all these greenery. So the bracha is not by the priyadama, but you make a more specific bracha by the mini deshoyim, the herbs. We do not follow Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. My time with Rabbi Yehuda. But what was Rabbi Yehuda's reasoning? On Makra, because the pasuk says, Baruch Hashem Yom Yom. We bench Hashem every single day. So the pasuk uses a double term, Yom Yom. V'chi b'yom mevarchen oisai, b'layla heim mevarchen oisai. Does that mean that we bench the Eibusha only daytime and not nighttime? Elalei malacha, the pasuk is saying, Yom Yom, Kol Yom v'yom, ten loim me'en berchaisav. Every day you have to bench the Eibusha according to what that day is. As Rashi says, on Shabbos there's one bracha, on Yom Tov there's another bracha, on a weekday you have to bench the Eibusha specifically for what he's giving you on that day. Hachanami, same as also with food, kol min v'min ten loim me'en berchaisav. It's not one general bracha for all the Bayre Priyadama, but if it's leaves, then you make Bayre Bine Deshoyim. If it's something else, you make Bayre Bine Zrayim, and then there's Bayre Priyadama. For each one, you make a more specific bracha, to thank Hashem specifically. Another statement from the same Amayra. Come and see. The midah of a person, the character of a human being is not the same as the character of Hashem. What is the difference? Midas basavedam, by humans, klireka machzik, maleina machzik. You have an empty vessel that could contain. A full vessel can't contain. Aval HaKadosh Baruch Hu when it comes by the Eibusha, it's not so. Male machzik, if you're full, that's when it could contain. Reikon eina machzik. When it's empty, it cannot contain. So as we'll see right now in the Gemara, when it says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it doesn't refer to the Eibusha, but it refers to us. When we learn the Eibusha's Torah. When you learn the Eibusha's Torah, if you're full of the Eibusha's Torah, you could contain more of his Torah. It gives you the ability to learn even more of Hashem's Torah. But if you're empty of Torah, so then you're not a keli to accept his Torah. Shanemar, as the pasuk says, "Vayomer im shemaya tishma, im shemaya tishma." So it says a lab lashon. If you heard once, if you listen and learn Torah once, you'll hear more. You'll be able to accept and hear more. Vim lav loy tishma. If not, you won't hear. Davar acher, another pshat, im shemaya b'yashon tishma b'chodosh. If there's something that you learned before that's old, which means that you reviewed it. If a person makes it a habit to not just learn things new and that's it, but he also reviews what he learns once, twice, a third time. So then, Tishma b'chadash, you'll have the ability to learn new. V'im yifna levavcha, but if you turn your heart away and you're empty of Torah, shuvle Tishma. You won't have the ability to hear words of Torah. So this Gemara is quoted in my Marim of Chassidus, and it's brought in the Maimar of Basi Lugani in Ois Vav, and the Rebbe speaks about it as well. And there's a slightly different shot of what it would seem from the simple pshat of the Gemara. Simple pshat of the Gemara, it seems that it says Midas Basav Adam Kli Reikon Machzik, which would refer to just simply, physically. You take a cup, if it's full of liquid, you can't fill it with anything else. If it's empty, so that you can fill it. But in the Maimer he explains, just as the second half of the statement is referring to a Yid learning Torah, that only if you learn, that makes you a Keli to learn even more, the first half of the statement is also referring to a connection of a Yid to the Eibishter, and even in learning Torah. And that's another aspect of the connection in learning. In order to be able to connect to the Eibishter himself, to the Neisan HaTorah into your learning, not only to the Seichel, to the information, you have to be a Kli Reikon. You have to have Bittul. And that bittul connects you not only to the Shemoya Tishma, to hear and to understand, but it connects you to a much deeper level to the Eibishter himself through bittul. That's the way Chassidus teaches this Gemara. Sagt der Mishnah, Birech al Peres Ilon, Beire Pri Adama. If a person makes bracha on the fruits from trees, so he made the bracha of Beire Pri Adama. Yotza, you're Yaitza, as the Gemara will explain. But Val Peres Haaretz, if you make a bracha on fruits that grow from the earth, which is the vegetables, so you made a bracha Beire Priya Eitz, you're thanking Hashem for fruits that grow on a tree, Lo Yatza. Then you're not Yaitza, you have to make the bracha again. Val Kulam, on any food that you eat, Im Ama Shakal Niyeh B'dvarai, if you made a Shahakal and not the right bracha that it deserves, Yatza. You're going to be Yaitza. Shahakal Niyeh B'dvarai B'diyeved is a bracha that works for any foods.
What happens if you start with a shackle and then
If
you, let's say by mistake, said shackle on eggs instead of on the vegetables that are on your plate?
Okay.
You go back to Adama, or you covered everything?
No, you covered everything. If I understood your question correctly. Okay, let's see the Gemara inside. Man Tanem, who is the Tana of this Mishnah? The Iker Ilon Ara. The main factor of the growth of even a tree, even though the fruits receive its energy from where? From the branches of the tree, the leaves of the tree. But ultimately the main factor of its growth comes from the ground. And therefore, as it said in the Mishnah, if you made a bracha on fruits, Beire Priya Adama, it's a correct bracha, because ultimately it gets its growth from the ground. Who's the Tana that says this? Amar Rav Nachman by Yitzchak Rabbi Yehudahi. This follows the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. We could see Rabbi Yehuda said something regarding the mitzvah of Bikurim that illustrates this point. Rabbi Yehuda said, what happens if a person prepares his bikurim to bring to the Beis HaMikdash, and that tree, or that the mayon, the wellspring that was providing the water for his field, it dried up, the tree dried up, the wellspring dried up, and now he's coming to the Beis HaMikdash to thank Hashem for giving me the land and giving me the fruit, but he doesn't have it anymore. Could he come to the Beis HaMikdash and bring the bikurim and thank Hashem for that? So the Mishnah says, maybe he can bring the fruits to the Beis HaMikdash, but he can't say the psukim thanking Hashem for the land because it dried up. He doesn't have it anymore. Rabbi Yehuda, the tree dried up, that is. Rabbi Yehuda says, maybe he could come and thank Hashem because even though the tree dried up, but the earth itself that the tree grows from, he still has. And that's the main factor of the growth of the tree. So the same thing is also with the bracha of Beire Priya Eitz, that he's supposed to make Beire Priya Eitz, to thank Hashem for the unique energy that there is in the tree that the fruits grow on. But if you made Beire Priya Adama, it's also okay, because it ultimately gets its nourishment also from the ground. Al Peiris Haaretz v'chulu. But if you're eating vegetables and you made the bracha Beire Priya Eitz, thanking Hashem for a tree, so then you're not Yaitza, because there's no tree here. It's vegetables. Fragt the Gemara, Pshita, isn't this obvious? You're thanking Hashem for something that's not here. The vegetables don't grow on a tree. But Rav Nachman by Yitzchak answers, Le nitzracha ela Rabbi Yehuda. This statement of the Mishnah was needed only according to the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. The Amar, Rabbi Yehuda says, Chita min ilon hi. The chita, the wheat, in the more broader perspective, it's a min. It falls under the category of a tree. Although it's not literally a tree, but it has some things that could be compared to a tree, and therefore you would think that the bracha of Beire Priya Eitz would work. The Tanya, we learned in a Braisa.
Chita, you don't make a dam anyways.
Well, depends. If you're eating the kernel directly, you do. Mm-hmm. Only when you turn it into a bread, then you make a bracha maitzi. But otherwise you would make a bracha dama.
If you cook the kernel, you mean?
No. You take the kernel raw and you chew the kernels, or you puff up the kernel, what we have today, which is puffed wheat, the bracha is hadama. If you cook it in like an oatmeal, so then the bracha is mezainis. If you bake bread, the bracha is hamaitzi. But you would make hadama if you eat it the way it is. The Tanya we learned in Abraisa, Ilon sha'achal mimenu adam erishain. The tree, the Eitz Hadas, that Adam Rishon ate from it. What tree was it? Rav Meir Eimer Gefenhoyer. Rav Meir says it was a vineyard. She'ein l'chadav shemevi yolal ala adam ela yayin. What brings a person to be wailing? Wine. If you drink too much wine. Shenema vayesh min hayayin vayishkar. By Noach, he drank too much wine and he got drunk and he got into trouble. Rab Nechemya says, Te'ena haisa. It was a fig tree. How do we know this? With what he was cursed, that's what they should later dress them with the leaves of a fig tree. Shenema, as the pasuk says, Vayispuru ale teina, he sewed for them from the leaves of a fig tree. That's what their clothing was. So we know that it was a fig tree. Rabbi Yehuda says, Chita haisa. It was a wheat. So it wasn't really a tree. Even though in the Torah it refers to the Chet Eitz Hadas as a tree, but it was wheat. Because a child cannot call out and identify his father and mother till he tastes the taste of grain, and that's what happened over here with the Eitz Hadas. It's called Eitz Hadas because when you eat from the grain, that gives the person das. Okay, so what do we see over here? That Rav Yehuda considers a chita to be a min ilan. It's not an ilan, but it's a min ilan. It's in the broader sense in the category of a tree. This inyan is brought by in Chassidus, this Gemara over here, when you get to the Eitz Hadas, the Rebbe Rashab is maidach on this inyan, in Kuntras Eitz HaChaim. And based on this Gemara, he makes the point that Chet Eitz Hadas was not kipshutai that Adam Arishan ate from an Eitz Hadas, which is something that is mamish and aveda, which is a rebellion against Hashem in the simple sense, because the Eitz Hadas, according to any of these interpretations, whether it's a gefen, whether it's a te'ena, or whether it's a chita, these are positive things. It's part of the Shivas Aminim, and chita, sometimes Torah is compared to chita, he's maidach over there by Riches. That the eating of the Eitz Hadas of Adam Rishon was really, he was learning Torah, and it was things that are on a high level, but he was lacking a certain ingredient. He ate from the Eitz Hadas and he was lacking the full bittul. It was with a certain gaiva and yeshus, and therefore he fell. That was the shayrish of Chet Eitz Hadas. Chet Eitz Hadas wasn't stam kipshutei, but it was in his limud Torah and in his avodas Hashem, he was lacking the full bittul, and that's what brought his downfall. That's the way, the kitzur, the point that it's explained there in Kuntras Eitz HaChaim.
Shabbos, he would be able to eat from it.
Correct.
So it shows that it was something positive.
Correct, right. It brings a lot of eyes to this inyan. Yeah. That what? This is also an Indian that's brought, famous Indian that's brought to Chassidus, L'Kutei Torah. The Alter Rebbe, yes, of course, the Alter Rebbe brings L'Kutei Torah, the famous matzah maimer. What's the idea of eating matzah? So the Alter Rebbe brings this Gemara. Just like Begashmias, when a person eats grain, it brings the das into the child, and the Alter Rebbe there says the reason is because of the Dvar Avaya in the grain. That's what gives the additional energy to the child, that he should be able to call out to his father, Abba v'Ima. The same thing is also the matzah, the amunah of a yid. To strengthen the amunah of the yid is when you eat the matzah, and that is the food for the amunah of a yid, that mechazek the amunah of a yid when you eat matzah. This is the source. So, I would think, since Rabbi Yehuda says that in a broader sense, a chita, the grain, the wheat, is also a kind of tree. So, so the bracha made should be by the priyates. Kamash Malan, so therefore the Mishnah teaches us, when do you say that bracha of by the priyates? When after you cut off the fruits, the branches, Rashi says, of the tree are still left there. And the mapik, and it grows more fruits. But in the case, the chishaklas lelepedi, when you take off the fruits, less legzuze, the branches are not there anymore. The hadamapik law, the hadamapik that they should provide more fruits. You do not make the bracha of beide priya eitz, ela beide priya adama. The bracha that's made is only beide priya adama. That's the conclusion of this thing, and this is very important to know what is a tree and what is not a tree. There are certain things that are in a suffix, but to know what is a tree and what is not, this is negeya here. When you take it off a tree, will it grow again, and will it stay for the next year and grow again? I believe this is the shayrish of the suffix benegaya to bananas, that there's a suffix if it's a tree or it's a vegetable, or whether you should make the bracha adam or a eitz is because of this. Can anyone help me out with the banana? Because it doesn't grow.
No, it's a bush. It's a bush.
It's pretty tall.
Yeah,
it's pretty tall, but it's exactly. It doesn't. It doesn't grow again after you take it off. It doesn't grow again, like the Gemara says here. Okay, so that's so therefore we make the bracha adam on a banana tree, even though it looks like a pretty tall tree.
Avocados.
Avocados is a tree.
Avocado is a tree.
Massive tree.
Massive tree, sure.
Yeah.
Brachos eggs. It's
And
a
it
regular
comes
tree.
back
It's a regular tree. Let me just say one more interesting thing when I get to what we learned here in the Gemara, was just coming from Chamishasa B'Shvat, Hashgacha Pratis. And this Gemara is brought in a Maimer from the Rebbe. When I get Chamishasa B'Shvat regarding trees, and the Gemara says that Chita is a min ilon, the Rebbe explains that Taira is compared to trees, because the fruits that grow on trees give a person pleasure. When you learn Taira, you understand what you're learning, it gives a person pleasure. When a person fulfills a mitzvah, the mitzvah is an action. That's not necessarily something that gives a person pleasure. And therefore it's compared to the vegetables, which are more basic necessities that a person needs. Not the same kind of a pleasure in the fruits. So the Rebbe says the chita is Torah, but it's only called a min ilon because when you learn Torah, you could be learning Torah just for the purpose of immersing yourself in the Torah and enjoying the pleasure of learning Torah. Or you could learn Torah for the purpose of knowing the mitzvahs. That's what the chita is. The chita is an ilon, but it's only a min ilon because it's learning Torah for the purpose to do mitzvahs, not the learning Torah for itself, which is the pleasure in Torah, which is the tainig and the fruits of a tree. That's the way the Rebbe teaches this Gemara here. We learned in the Mishnah on any foods, b'diavad, if you said shahakal, you're yaitza. Itmar. So there's an argument regarding this. That's besides bread and wine, which have a special chshivas, and for that, if you made shahakal, you're not yaitza. As Rashi says, wine is used for kiddush, havdalah, and other things, and so too bread has more chshivas. It's used for kiddush also if you don't have wine, and chlal bread has more chshivas, so therefore you can't make the bracha of shahakal on bread and wine, even b'diavad. Rabbi Yechanan disagrees and says, "Afilu pas v'yayin." Even if you made a shahakal on bread and wine, you're yaitze b'diavad, and that's the halacha actually that's brought in Shulchan Aruch. Let us say that this argument of Rav Huna and Rabbi Yechanan is based on a machlekes of Tanoim. Raw pas. What happens if a person sees bread? It doesn't only mean sees bread; he eats bread. Va'omar kama noa pasu barach hamakim shabara. How beautiful is this bread? He's thanking Hashem for creating this bread. He made a bracha, but he didn't make the standard bracha that Chazal were masakin. Ra teine, or he ate figs, va'amar, and he didn't make the standard bracha. What does he say? Kamanoa teine zu barach hamakim shabara. How geshmak is this fig? Thank you Hashem for creating this fig. So, is it a good bracha or not? Yotza. Is yaitza. Divrei Rab Meir, this is Rab Meir's opinion. Rabbi Yosi Aimer, Rabbi Yosi says, Kol ha-meshanim matbei shetov v'chachamim. Anyone that changes from the exact text, the way the chachamim made the bracha, the literal taich of matbei shetovu means the way they coined the bracha, lo yotza, yidei chayvasa. He's not yaitza. So here we see that there's an argument between Rab Meir and Rabbi Yosi. If you veered off of the matbei of the chachamim, of the text of the bracha of the chachamim, are you yaitza or not? So we can say that Rav Huna and Rabbi Yechanan are arguing the same argument. When Rav Huna says that you can't make the bracha of shahakal on bread or wine, he's following the opinion of Rabbi Yosi.
Anything.
Oh, so that's a good question. So Taisvis brings up the question, wait a minute, I mean, Rav Huna and Rav Yechanan were only arguing about bread and wine. But didn't it say in our Mishnah that everybody would agree that you can make the bracha of shahakal on anything else, even though it's not the way the Chachamim established it? So everybody agrees to that. Taisvis says, Anachanami, the Gemara could have asked that. But the Gemara continues further anyways. Let's see inside. So the Gemara explains, no. Rav Huna will, sorry, a second. Name, sorry, I missed the word here. Name, let's say Rav Huna Damar Karab Yosi. Rav Huna that says that you cannot make a shahakal on bread and wine, he follows the opinion of Rabbi Yosi, that you have to follow the text of the Chachamim. But Rabbi Yechanan Damar Karab Meir, and Rabbi Yechanan that says that you could make shahakal on bread and wine, he follows the opinion of Rabbi Meir. Rav Huna answers to you, no. I can follow Rabbi Meir. What I'm saying would work even according to Rabbi Meir's opinion. The only reason Rabbi Meir said there that the person said, thank you Hashem for this bread, thank you Hashem for this fig, and he did not use the text of the Chachamim, because at least he's mentioning the bread. He's mentioning the bread or the fig, the food that he's eating. If you just say shahakal niya b'dvarai and you don't mention the actual bread, so then Rab Meir would agree to me that you can't make shahakal on bread. But Rabbi Yechanan would answer, my opinion that says that you could say shahakal even on bread and wine, That follows even Rabbi Yossi's opinion. Why? There, the person coins his own bracha. He makes up his totally his own nusach. So that's a problem. And if he does make the bracha of shahakal, which is the general bracha that Chachamim were mesakin, so Afula Rabbi Yossi Maida. Rabbi Yossi would agree to me that b'di yeved, that does work. Now, like I mentioned, that's the final halach in Shulchan Aruch. If you made the bracha of shahakal on bread, wine, anything, you're yaitze b'di yeved. Now the Gemara brings when you get to the bracha achrayna, when you get to benching. Also a similar thing, where a person benched and didn't use the text of the benching that Chachamim were mesakin. Or actually Moshe Rabbeinu and Yeshua were mesakin, the text of benching. Binyamin Raya, Binyamin a shepherd. Korach Rifte, he would eat bread, he would break bread and eat bread. Va'ama brich morei dahai pita. Benched is the master of this bread. Oma Rav, so Rav says Yotza. He was Yaitza benching by saying that. V'ha'oma Rav, so the Gemara asks, wait a minute, how could have Rav himself said this? Rav said, Kol bracha she'ein ba'askaras Hashem, ein a bracha. Anytime you bench and you do not mention Hashem's name, it's not a bracha at all. So the Gemara answers, no. The Omar brich rachmana maradahai pitta. So Hitaki said brich rachmana. He mentioned rachmana, which is referring to the merciful one, to the Eibishter. So then he's yaitza. Fragt the Gemara, but v'albeinu shalosh brachas. There's a takana to make 3 brachas. Right? Moshe Rabbeinu, Yeshua ben Nun, they were masakin to make 3 brachas. So how could it be yaitza? So the Gemara answers, Ma yotza. What does it mean here when it says that he's yaitza? The ka'amar Rav nami yotza yidei bracha rishayna. The first bracha of benching, if you didn't say the full text of the bracha and he replaced it with brich, rachmana, mara, the high pita, that could be said and replaced, and then he continues to the other 2 brachas. Frag the Gemara, Maika Mashmalan. What's the chiddush? If he's saying the text of the other 2 brachas, so what's the chiddush that he could replace the first bracha with this brich, rachmana? Afagav damar b'lashon chayil is the chiddush, even though he didn't say it in the original lashon kodesh, even though he used the Aramaic words to bench Hashem. That's the chiddush. Tanina, that we learned already in a Mishnah. The elu nemarim b'chol lashon. The following does not have to be said in lashon hakodesh. It could be said in any other language. Parshas Saita, Vidi Meiser, when you confess and you talk about the Meisers that you gave. Kriya Shema, Tfilah, davening, Birchas Hamazon, benching as well. So it says benching does not have to be said in lashon hakodesh. So it says it already in a Mishnah. So the Gemara answers, no, it's the chiddush of what Rav said regarding the conduct of Binyamin Raya is still necessary. Why? I would have thought, only if he said a translation. He said the exact same text that Chachamim were mesakin, but he said it in English, for example. But if he didn't translate the same words that the Chachamim were mesakin in Lashon Kodesh, I would say that doesn't work. So if he says it in his own nusach, and he just said brich rachmana, it doesn't work. Kamash malan, that it does b'diavad work if he said it in this nusach. And this is brought in Shulchan Aruch, of course, regarding children that can't bench, and you can't yet be mechanech them to bench, so that you teach them to say brich rachmana. But then when children get old enough to be able to bench, so you have to slowly teach them how to bench the right nusach of benching. But children are able to say this nusach of brich rachmana mara the high pita.
The siddur, it adds Hashem's name though.
Elokana, correct. Correct. Yes, this is the market to the singing. Sagt Gemara weiter, Gufa, Omar Rav. Going back now to what we mentioned before, that Rav says that in every bracha you have to mention Hashem. A bracha that doesn't mention the Eibishter is not a bracha. Omar Rav, kol bracha shein ba'askaras Hashem, ain't a bracha. You don't mention the Eibishter in the bracha, that's not a bracha. But Rabbi Yochanan Omar, kol bracha shein ba'malchus ain't a bracha. It's not enough to mention Rachmana, but you also have to say Malchus, the kingdom of the Eibishter. Otherwise, it's not a bracha. It makes sense that Rav is right. The Tanya, since we learned in Abraisa, lo yavarti mi mitzvaysecha. I did not transgress from any of your mitzvahs, move away from any of your mitzvahs. V'lo shachachti, and I did not forget any of your mitzvahs. This is referring to vidui meiser, when a person is talking about all the meisers that he gave. But the Gemara, the Braisa darshans in this pasuk, lo yavarti mulovarechacha. I did not forget to make a bracha. When a person separates meiser, like any other mitzvah, you have to make a bracha. V'lo shachachti mulahaske shimcha alav. And I did not forget when I made the bracha to mention your name. So you see right over here, like Rav says, what does the Brisa say? When you make a bracha, you have to say Hashem's name. It doesn't say anything about Malchus. V'ilu Malchus like a Tani. It doesn't say that you have to mention Malchus. Rabbi Yochanan Tani, Rabbi Yochanan learns in the Brisa differently. His version is V'leishachachti melahaskir shimcha u'malchuscha olav. That the person says, I have not forgotten to say the Eibishter's name and his kingdom. If you don't express the fact that the Eibishter is a king over the world, you're missing the point of the bracha. It's not just about thanking Hashem and mentioning his name, but it's also about recognizing the Eibishter's dominion and kingdom over the universe. Sagt the Mishnah, all foods that do not come from the ground. Oimer, the bracha is shahakal niya b'dvarei. So there, that's the chatchila, the bracha that you make, shahakal niya b'dvarei. Ala chaymitz, vinegar. Vala noivleis. Noivleis is a kind of dates, as we'll see in the Gemara exactly what kind of dates. Vala goivoi, and goivoi, which are grasshoppers. Oimer shahakal niya b'dvarei. So the bracha as well is shahakal niya b'dvarei. Rabbi Yehuda says, Kol shehu min klala, anytime you're making a bracha on something and then there's a curse on this food, ein mevarchen alav. You don't make a bracha, which according to the Pshat in the Mishnah, it refers to these three things. Vinegar, which is a curse, your wine went bad, or noivleis, as we'll see, it's bad dates, or goivai, which are grasshoppers, which are a curse that eats up the food, the crop in the field. So these things that are a curse, you don't make a bracha on it. Now the Mishnah says a completely different halacha. When a person has different kinds of foods in front of him, so what bracha comes first? Rabbi Yehuda Omer, em yesh b'neim min shiva olav u'mevarech. If there's one of the shiva saminim that has a special chshivas that grows in Eretz Yisrael, that's the bracha. That's what you make the bracha on first. The Chachamim disagree, and they say mevarech al eize mehen sheyirtze. The person will make the bracha on what he likes. And what he likes, that's what he makes the bracha first. This is the din of chaviv. What you like, you make the bracha on, and we'll see later in the Gemara tomorrow, Mitzvah Shem, regarding the second half of the Mishnah. But the Gemara starts with the first half of the Mishnah, the bracha of shahakal. What do you make a bracha of shahakal on? Tana Rabbana, we learned in Abraisal, all the foods that do not grow from the ground. Any meat, chayis, v'oifis, v'dogim, or chicken, or fish. So the bracha is shahakal niya b'dvarei. Ala chalav, ala beitzim, same as with milk or eggs, vala gvina, cheese, oime shahakal, the bracha is shahakal as well. Another chiddush now here is, ala pas she'ipsha, on moldy bread, vala yayin shehikrim, on wine that fermented, vala tafshel she'ova tzurosai, and on food that's spoiled. Oime shahakal, you also make the bracha of shahakal. It's not the food that's the way it's intended to be eaten, and the bracha is shahakal. This is similar to the halacha that we learned before regarding vegetables. If you eat a raw potato, it's not intended to be eaten that way. The bracha is shahakal. So all these foods over here that are spoiled, that are moldy, the bracha is shahakal, and this is the halacha that's Shulchan Aruch.
Pickles aren't.
No, of course not. Of course not. Ala melach vala zomis. I can't hear you.
Why do you make a bracha at all? Moldy bread?
It gives a person sustenance. Yeah.
Nothing else to eat, I guess.
Ala melach vala zomis, on salt or salt water. Val kemein epitrios, on kemein epitrios are mushrooms and truffles. Oimer shahakal. On them you also make a bracha of shahakal. So the Gemara focuses on these mushrooms. L'meimre, shall we say, the kemein epitrios, that the mushrooms and truffles lav geduli karkaninu. They don't grow from the ground. They do. And the Gemara brings a brisa to back it up. It doesn't just rely on the fact that practically we see it grows from the ground, but it brings a brisa to prove it. It says in the brisa, it's a person that makes a vow that he will not have any benefit from what grows from the ground, from the fruits of the ground. He may not eat from what grows from the ground, or whether vegetables or fruits, but he's allowed to eat the mushrooms or truffles. But if he says a bit of a different expression, I accept upon myself not to derive any benefit of gidule karka, anything that grows from the ground, then asa af b'kmein u'pitrios. It's also for him to eat even mushrooms and truffles. It's not peiros ha'aretz, but it's gidule karka. So we see that the mushrooms and the truffles grow from the ground. So how can we say that the bracha is shahakal? Amar Abaye, so Abaye says, mirbe rabu me'ara, they do grow from the ground, but minke la yanki me'ara, they do not receive their sustenance from the ground. Okay? So it's a fungus, exactly. It's a fungus, and it does not receive its. I tried to check this up, and I can't repeat to you the scientific language that I saw regarding describing how the mushrooms grow, but it does not grow and receive its nourishment the way other things grow from the ground.
From the moon and
From the air, from the atmosphere, from whatever other things that it grows from, it does not grow the way everything else is, that it receives the nourishment from the earth. Okay, so the Gemara asks a question. Going back to our Mishnah. The Mishnah says something that does not grow from the ground, that and that you make a bracha, shahakal niya b'dvarei. So l'chayre on the Kamein and Pitriyos, the Mishnah is not using the right lashon. So the Gemara says, Tni al davar she'en yonik min haaretz. You have to learn pshat in the Mishnah that if it doesn't receive the nourishment from the ground, because Kamein and Pitriyos do grow from the ground, but they don't receive its nourishment from the ground, and therefore the bracha is shahakal niya b'dvarei, and this is the halacha that's brought in Shulchan Aruch. One more thing we learned today regarding the noivlois. It said in the Mishnah, noivlois, which are basically damaged dates, the bracha is going to be shahakal. Okay? Which is similar to the ideas that we learned before regarding spoiled foods, that the bracha is shahakal. But what exactly are these dates? So the Gemara says, my noivlois. What are these dates? Rab Zera and Rabbi Law argued about this. Chadama once said, bushli chimra. These are dates that got burnt by the heat of the sun. And it's not really eaten regularly, it got destroyed by the heat. The Chadamar, another opinion is Tamri de Zika. It's date that got blown off the tree. There's a machlekes about this. Some Rishonim say it got blown off the tree prematurely and it's not ripe, so therefore it's not usually eaten. Tanan. No, doesn't say anything about. No, this is not dried dates. That's not the pshat in the Gemara. We're talking about dates that were damaged by the sun. Dried dates, the bracha is ha'etz, right? But this is damaged dates, come from the heat of the sun, burnt up. Tanam we learned in another, and we learned in our Mishnah here. Rabbi Yehuda said, Kol shu min klala. Any foods that is a curse, ein mevarch and olav, there's no bracha at all. And one of the things that it mentioned in the Mishnah was these noivlois, these dates. So the question is, Bishlam the mandama bushli chimra, the mandama that says that what happened to these dates is they got burnt by the sun. Haina de kadele min klala. Therefore, it's a curse. The dates got burnt. It's not right. It's not fit for eating. Ela la mandama tamri de zika. It got blown off the tree. My min klala. Why is it a klala? It's still fit to eat. It's not. It didn't get burnt up. So why wouldn't you make a bracha on this? So the Gemara answers, Ashara. According to this opinion, the statement of Rav Yehuda is not going on those dates. It's going on the other two. It's going on the vinegar and the grasshoppers, which are a curse. Ikeda Omri. Others said differently. It's well understood according to the one that said that it refers to the dates that got burned. So therefore it's not fit for eating, so therefore you make the bracha shahakal if you eat them. But the opinion that says that it's the dates that were blown off the tree by the wind, shahakal. You make a shahakal, bayre priyates mi baye leila vruchi. You should make a bracha of bayre priyates, it's fruits. You can eat it. Ella, so therefore the Gemara now, according to this opinion, changes this whole argument here. The Gemara says, "B'noivlois stame," regarding the term noivlois as it's quoted in our Mishnah, "Kula amalei pligi." Nobody argues the bushli chimranino that these refer to dates that are burnt by the sun, and therefore you don't make the bracha of the eitz, but the bracha is shahakal. Ki pligi. This argument of Rab Zera and Rabbi Law regarding this expression of noivlois is b'noivlois tamra. They were talking about another Mishnah where it didn't stam say noivlois, it said noivlois tamra, the noivlois of the dates. Over there the question is what it is. The Tnam we learned in a different Mishnah regarding the halacha of demai. Demai is fruits or produce from an Amma Aretz, where it's a suffix if you took meiser or not, and you have to be machmer and take meiser again. But the Mishnah here gives a list of different kinds of fruits that are inferior fruits, and therefore we're not machmer, and you do not have to give meiser again. So let's take a look at this list here. Hakalin shebitmai. These are the places that there's leniency regarding tnai. What are they? So there's a list here. Hashitin, v'harimin, v'hauzradin, b'nais shuach, b'nais shikma, gufnin, nitzpa, and the last thing is, which is what's relevant for us, noivlois tamra. Noivlois tamra. Over here it doesn't say just noivlois, but it says noivlois tamra. So the Gemara now will explain what all of these are. I'll try to explain them. If you can help me out, I'll try to remember what all these are over here. Shitin, what are shitin? Some kind of a fig. Rimin, what are rimin? Kandi. Rimin is kandi, which is some kind of a thing that's similar to some kind of a date. Lotus, okay. Ha'uzradin, what's uzradin? Tulshi, some kind of an apple. So what? If I remember correctly.
Doesn't say anything.
No, it doesn't say anything on tulshi. Okay. B'nais shuach, I believe it. If I remember, it's some kind of an apple. Yeah, some kind of an apple. B'nais shuach. What's b'nais shuach? Amar Abba Babachana, Amar Rabbi Yechanan, Te'eni chivirta, white figs, which are also inferior figs. B'nais shikma, what are they? Amar Abba Babachana, Amar Rabbi Yechanan, duvli, are also some kind of a figs.
Another type.
Sycamore figs. Sycamore figs. Gufnin, what are gufnin? Shili gufni, those are grapes that grow at the end of the season and never ripen properly. Nitzpa, this we had before actually, that's pirche, the caper bush. So the caper, berries. So these are all kinds of fruits that people don't usually eat them, and therefore the chumrah of demai does not apply. What's neivlis tamra? So here's where the argument was. Rabbi Lav and Rabbi Zera argued about this. Chadam bushli chimra. One says this refers to the dates that were burnt by the sun. V'chadam ritamri dezika. The other says it's the dates that were blown off the tree. So now on this, the Gemara asks, it's well understood according to the one that it says that it was burnt by the sun. Therefore it says that this is the leniency of demai. Since it's a suffer, it's exempt of meiser. But if you know for a fact that meiser wasn't taken, you have to take demai. But if you're going to say that these are the figs, that these are the dates that the wind blew away, vadon chayiv. If you know meiser wasn't taken, you have to take meiser. Why? Hefkedaninu. The wind blew it out of the person's property, and it's hefker. Blew it away, and it's just totally hefker. There's no meiser for something which is hefker. And for the Gemara, the person that took these dates, he gathered them and made a pile out of them, so then you do have to take meiser midirabanon of these dates that you made a pile of them. When the poor people come and gather, if they made a pile out of it, you have to give meiser. We're going to conclude this inyan because it's mamish, just a small inyan that's a hemshech. Ikke de Amri. There are others that said, it's well understood according to the one that says that when it says over here, Neivleis Tamra, it refers to the dates that the wind blew off the tree. Hainu, the Hacha Karele Neivleis Stama, the Hasan Karele Tamra. This is why the Mishnah, the Tana, changes the language. In our Mishnah, he says Stam Neivleis, which is when it gets burnt, and there it says Neivleis Tamra, because over there it's not dates that got burnt, but it's dates that were blown off the tree. So he changes the language. El Mandama Bushli Chimra, but according to the Mandama that says that in both Mishnayos, it's referring to the same dates that got burnt by the sun, Nisni Idi V'idi Neivleis Tamra. Why does it not use the same language? Neivleis Tamra. Oi, Idi V'idi Neivleis Tama. Or it should say in both Mishnayos the same word of Neivleis. Kashya. That remains a question.
These things change over time, like shivos and stuff like that.
Marshall, what are you referring to?
Today,